The Ventaxians butchered Earth's population, slaughtering 7 billion. Little did they know, beneath the frigid Arctic ice, Earth's greatest warriors lay frozen and waiting, dreaming dreams of vengeance. Commander Deneb smirked with vicious self-satisfaction as his fleet blanketed Earth's green and blue surface with deadly beams of blinding energy. The searing bolts streaked through the atmosphere, igniting skyscrapers, vaporizing highways, melting entire cities to molten slag. Governments toppled, armies shattered, billions incinerated. Humanity's hopelessly outmatched defenses buckled in the face of the Ventaxians' technologically advanced onslaught. But the invaders were unaware of humanity's final trump card. The Arctic Slumber Initiative, a top-secret military project, had squirreled away Earth's most elite soldiers in cryogenic chambers buried deep under the polar ice caps. This desperate contingency plan aimed to preserve humanity's deadliest warriors in case of a cataclysmic invasion. As the remnants of humanity buckled under the crushing weight of alien occupation, the underground cryopods began to malfunction from damage sustained in the bombardment. One by one, the frozen super soldiers thawed and stirred. Former Spec Ops Commando Sean Kennedy gasped back to consciousness, limbs prickling with pins and needles. He blinked rapidly, vision sharpening to reveal the cryogenic pod's cracked viewport and flickering control panels. As he punched the emergency release and staggered from the egg-shaped chamber, Sean found himself in the dimly lit ruins of the underground bunker. Debris and sparking cables dangled from the cracked ceiling. Muffled booms shuddered through the complex, spraying dust. Sean ventured to the ravaged surface, emerging into a bleak hellscape of razed cities and skeletal forests. The stench of smoke and burnt flesh flooded his nostrils. Distant screams rang out. He soon encountered ragged bands of human survivors, their gaunt faces streaked with soot and despair as they hid amongst the rubble of their once bustling civilization, now an alien-controlled wasteland. They spoke of families torn apart, sadistic alien overseers, and grueling slave labor as the Ventaxians stripped the planet of resources. But they also whispered furtively of other soldiers like Sean, gradually awakening and fighting back. Glimmers of hope amidst the overwhelming darkness. Sean tracked down the other reanimated super soldiers one by one, men and women possessing enhanced strength, speed, resilience, and battle-honed skills, thanks to the initiative's cutting-edge biomodifications and intense training regimens. They established a hidden base within a labyrinthine cave network and began coordinating an underground resistance movement. Striking from the shadows, Sean led his fellow augmented commandos on guerrilla raids against the Ventaxians' sprawling outposts and vulnerable supply depots. They gathered intel and discovered the extraterrestrial forces were commanded by a sadistic overlord known as Deneb. Each daring mission bolstered the rebels' supplies and whittled down alien manpower, even as the revived super soldiers searched tirelessly for more of their brethren emerging from stasis. But the human resistance needed a decisive blow to show the Ventaxians they meant business. In a cunning display of sabotage, Sean and his crack team infiltrated the aliens' main power facility and planted a network of C4 charges. The resulting explosion tore the structure apart in an enormous fireball, sending Ventaxian bodies pinwheeling through the air like ragdolls. In one fell swoop, a third of Deneb's troops lay dead or dying, their vehicles and weapons reduced to smoldering scrap. Earth's new defenders had drawn first blood in spectacular fashion. But as wailing alarms blared and terrified survivors staggered through the flames, Commander Deneb stormed from his towering obsidian command ship and viewed the carnage through narrowed, hate-filled eyes. He vowed to annihilate the human vermin slowly and painfully to make a gruesome example of all who defied his mighty imperium. However, Deneb did not yet realize the resilient, resourceful beings he faced were no ordinary freedom fighters. They were the pinnacle of human potential, the best of the best, bioengineered warriors driven by implacable will. They were super soldiers, and they would not rest until every alien invader lay dead or driven before them. Earth would be free once more, no matter the cost. Enraged by the devastating human assault on his power facility, Commander Deneb banged his hand on the obsidian command console, his eyes blazing with malice. He barked orders to his subordinates, demanding swift retribution. Target the remaining human settlements, round up their wretched kind and bring me prisoners for interrogation. I want the location of those accursed super soldier rebels, and I want it now. Ventaxian strike teams mobilized, descending upon the battered remnants of human cities and towns. Alien shock troopers stormed through the rubble-strewn streets, energy rifles crackling as they herded terrified humans at gunpoint. Families were torn apart as loved ones were dragged away, screaming and pleading, to be shackled and hauled off to Ventaxian prison ships. In their hidden base, Sean Kennedy and his team intercepted frantic distress calls from the besieged human enclaves, along with panicked reports of mass abductions. Hacking into Ventaxian communications, they discovered references to a sprawling prison complex where the aliens were holding thousands of human captives for brutal interrogations, sadistic experimentation, and backbreaking slave labor. Kennedy gathered his battle-hardened super soldiers, their eyes glinting with steely dedication. This is our chance to hit the bastards where it hurts and bolster our ranks. We're going to infiltrate that prison hellhole and free as many of our people as we can. Gear up and get ready to move out. Oof. As night fell, Kennedy led the daring rescue mission to breach the heavily fortified Ventaxian prison. The complex was a maze of electrified razor wire, automated gun turrets, and patrolling alien guards armed to the teeth. But the super soldiers had a few tricks up their sleeves. Using their augmented strength and agility, they silently scaled the perimeter walls, dispatching sentries with ruthless efficiency. Kennedy hacked the security systems, causing power outages and disabling defenses to sow chaos and confusion. Inside the prison's dank halls, all hell broke loose as Kennedy and his commandos unleashed mayhem, their pulse rifles flaring as they cut down Ventaxian guards in close-quarters combat. Alarms blared and panicked orders squawked over the prison intercom as the aliens scrambled to contain the human assault. Kennedy's team blasted open cell doors, freeing dozens of emaciated but defiant prisoners, men, women, and children, their faces gaunt and haunted, but their spirits unbroken. Among the prisoners, Kennedy discovered a high-value detainee, Dr. Evan Talbot, a brilliant xenobiologist who had been studying Ventaxian physiology and technology before the invasion. Dr. Talbot, your knowledge could be vital to finding weaknesses in the Ventaxian forces, Kennedy urged as he freed the haggard scientist. We need your help. Just then, a thunderous boom shook the complex. Commander Deneb had arrived with heavily armed reinforcements, trapping the humans inside the prison. Vicious close-quarters fighting erupted as Kennedy and his soldiers desperately fought to protect the freed prisoners and secure an escape route. Amidst the whirlwind of plasma fire and falling bodies, Dr. Talbot cried out in pain, hit by a ricocheting energy blast as he helped Kennedy hold off a Ventaxian assault. Kennedy dragged Talbot to cover, but the scientist's wounds were grave. Slipping in and out of consciousness, Talbot weakly gripped Kennedy's arm. Commander, you have to leave me. Get the prisoners out. Talbot gasped, blood bubbling from his lips. Kennedy pursed his lips, torn between his duty to save the civilians and his need for the critical information Talbot carried. The super soldier made a split-second decision as Ventaxian forces closed in. Fall back and get the prisoners to the extraction point. I'm going back for Talbot and the intel, Kennedy ordered his team. Don't wait for me. I'll catch up. As his commandos led the frightened but determined refugees away from the fighting, Kennedy turned and sprinted back into the battle-torn prison, energy bolts sizzling past his head. He reached Talbot's side just as Deneb and his elite guards came into view, the Ventaxian commander's eyes blazing with rage. Pathetic human filth, Deneb snarled, leveling his plasma rifle. I will enjoy watching you burn. A savage firefight erupted, Kennedy moving with blinding speed as he returned fire and closed the gap. The super soldier unleashed the full fury of his advanced abilities, engaging Deneb's guards in a brutal melee of whirling blades, bone-shattering kicks, and point-blank energy blasts. Kennedy fought like a man possessed, driven by a primal need to protect the helpless and strike back against the merciless invaders. In a final confrontation, he and Deneb traded vicious blows in a deadly duel, the Ventaxian commander's hissing taunts drowned out by the clash of steel and crackle of energy weapons. With a roar of defiance, Kennedy drove his combat knife deep into Deneb's side, the alien warlord howling in pain as luminous ichor spilled from the wound. Wrenching the blade free, Kennedy scooped up the unconscious Talbot and fled, narrowly escaping the alien guard's vengeful pursuit. In the aftermath of the daring prison raid, Kennedy reunited with his team and the liberated prisoners at a hidden evacuation site. As medics tended to the wounded, the dying Dr. Talbot urgently shared a final revelation with Kennedy: the existence of a clandestine Ventaxian research station in low Earth orbit. The orbital outpost was a treasure trove of the invaders' most sensitive military secrets and data cores, holding the potential key to exposing fatal vulnerabilities in the alien forces. With his last breath, Talbot pleaded with Kennedy to infiltrate the research station and secure the vital information to aid the human resistance. The super soldier nodded gravely, his expression hardening with unyielding commitment as he contemplated the daunting challenge ahead. Meanwhile, a gravely wounded Commander Deneb was rushed to a Ventaxian medical facility, his battered body immersed in restorative nutrient vats as autosurgeon machines worked to repair the damage inflicted by Kennedy. Amidst the anesthetized fog, Deneb's rage only grew, his heart darkening with an all-consuming need for vengeance against the human rebels who had defied him and his mighty Imperium. For Sean Kennedy and Earth's embattled resistance, the prison rescue had been a much-needed victory, a spark of hope in the overwhelming darkness of alien occupation. But the battle was nowhere near the end. The greatest challenge lay ahead, breaching the heavily defended research station orbiting high above the planet's war-torn surface. Only then could humanity uncover the secrets to defeating the Ventaxian invaders once and for all. Sean Kennedy pored over the data retrieved from Dr. Talbot, his eyes scanning rapidly across holographic displays. The intel revealed a tantalizing weakness: a Ventaxian research station in low Earth orbit. "This is our chance," Kennedy announced to his team. "We hit that station, we could cripple their entire invasion force." The super soldiers worked tirelessly, scavenging alien tech to retrofit a small spacecraft. They labored in shifts, welding salvaged hull plating and jury-rigging systems. Kennedy oversaw final preparations, running through checklists and contingencies. "Remember, we slip in quiet," he briefed the strike team. "No unnecessary risks." As they prepared for launch, alarms blared. A Ventaxian patrol had stumbled upon their hidden facility. "Shit, we're blown!" shouted Rodriguez, one of Kennedy's lieutenants. "What now, boss?" Kennedy's mind raced. "New plan! We launch now! All hands, battle stations!" The team scrambled aboard as Kennedy fired up the engines. The launch pad erupted in plasma fire as Ventaxian troops swarmed in. The makeshift craft shuddered as it lifted off, alien energy bolts sizzling past. "Hang on!" Kennedy shouted, pushing the engines to maximum thrust. The G-forces crushed them into their seats as they rocketed skyward. Ventaxian interceptors screamed in pursuit, plasma cannons blazing. Kennedy jinked and rolled, his augmented reflexes pushed to the limit. A near miss rocked the ship, alarms wailing as systems failed. "Hull breach, deck 3, called out Chen, frantically working to seal off compartments. They punched through the atmosphere, Kennedy's evasive maneuvers leaving a corkscrew contrail. The interceptors fell back, their engines sputtering in the thinning air. Kennedy allowed himself a tight grin as they cleared the planet's gravity well. The orbital station loomed ahead, a filled monstrosity of alien architecture. Kennedy led his team in a harrowing spacewalk, magnetic boots clanking as they traversed the station's hull. They located an airlock and breached it with shaped charges. Alien klaxons blared as they stormed inside. Kennedy's team moved with ruthless efficiency, cutting down Ventaxian security forces with bursts of plasma fire. They fought their way deeper into the facility, leaving a trail of alien corpses in their wake. In the central data core, Kennedy interfaced with the alien systems. Gigabytes of data streamed into his storage device. "We've got what we came for," he announced. "Let's bug out." But as they turned to leave, a horribly familiar figure blocked their path. Commander Deneb, his alien face twisted in hate, dozens of elite Ventaxian troops at his back. "Did you really think you could get away with this, human?" Deneb snarled. A furious battle erupted in the cramped corridors. Kennedy's outnumbered team fought desperately, but they were slowly pushed back. Kennedy himself engaged Deneb, trading vicious blows in hand-to-hand combat. But even Kennedy's augmented strength was no match for Deneb's alien might. The super soldier found himself on the defensive, battered by the Ventaxians' relentless assault. With no other choice, Kennedy keyed in the station's self-destruct sequence. Alarms wailed as the countdown began. "Fall back," Kennedy ordered. "Get to the ship." They retreated under heavy fire. Johnson and Ramirez fell, providing covering fire, buying precious seconds for their comrades to escape. Kennedy was the last to board their battered craft, diving through the airlock as Deneb's plasma bolts seared past. The station erupted in a massive fireball behind them as they limped away. Kennedy allowed himself a moment of grim satisfaction before focusing on getting his battered team home. Back on Earth, the Resistance pored over the stolen data. It revealed the location of the Ventaxians' Mars Command Center and exploitable weaknesses in their bioweapons. Kennedy wasted no time. He put his soldiers through grueling training, pushing their augmented bodies to new limits. They all knew the final battle lay ahead. Meanwhile, a severely wounded Deneb oversaw frantic reconstruction efforts in orbit. His hatred for Kennedy and humanity burned hotter than ever. He began marshaling a vast armada, vowing to crush the human resistance once and for all. The stage was set for a climactic showdown. Earth's fate would soon be decided on the red sands of Mars. The red dust of Mars swirled outside the viewport as Kennedy's makeshift spacecraft touched down on the alien world. His hand-picked team of super soldiers filed out, their cybernetically enhanced bodies primed for the coming battle. "Alpha team on me," Kennedy barked. "Omega, you know your mission. Radio silence until the job's done." Major Hendricks nodded grimly, leading Omega team toward their infiltration point. Kennedy watched them disappear into the crimson haze before turning to Alpha Squad. "Let's move," he ordered. They advanced swiftly across the barren landscape, alien fortifications looming ahead. Suddenly, the Martian sky lit up with explosions as Omega's sabotage took effect. Ventaxian defense systems went dark, leaving a clear path for Alpha's assault. Kennedy's team hit the outer perimeter like a battering ram. Enhanced muscles and reflex boosters kicked into overdrive as they tore through the first wave of alien security. Plasma bolts sizzled past as Kennedy led the charge deeper into the sprawling underground complex. "Push forward," he shouted, his voice carrying over the din of battle. They fought their way through winding corridors, leaving a trail of alien bodies in their wake. Just as they neared the central command hub, klaxons blared. A sea of cybernetically augmented Ventaxian super soldiers poured into the chamber, their eyes glowing with murderous intent. The two forces clashed in a fury of blazing energy weapons and superhuman combat. Kennedy's team held their own, but the sheer number of enemy troops was overwhelming. Suddenly, a piercing feedback screeched through Kennedy's neural implants. His vision blurred as an unseen force attempted to seize control of his cybernetic enhancements. All around him, Alpha Team staggered under the assault. "Deneb!" Kennedy snarled, fighting to maintain control of his own body. Deep in the command center, the alien commander smirked as he manipulated the human forces through his direct neural link to the Ventaxian mainframe. But Omega Team had located Deneb's uplink. Major Hendrix's fingers flew across alien consoles as he initiated a critical data download. 60 seconds to completion, he reported, sweat beading on his brow as Ventaxian troops pounded at the sealed bulkhead. On the surface, the ground began to tremble. Fissures split the Martian landscape as Deneb's doomsday protocol activated. The clock was ticking. With a roar of defiance, Kennedy broke free of the neural assault. His mind raced as he decrypted the alien data streaming through his implants. Alpha team, push to the core, he ordered. We've got to shut this thing down. They fought tooth and nail through hordes of Ventaxian forces, finally reuniting with the battered remnants of Omega Squad at the reactor core. Kennedy's fingers flew across the alien controls, racing to override the extinction protocol. A reptilian hiss echoed through the chamber. Kennedy turned to see Deneb himself stalking forward, flanked by his deadliest warriors. Your pathetic resistance ends here, human, the alien commander snarled. As his team engaged the Ventaxian forces in a desperate final stand, Kennedy faced off against his nemesis. The two titans clashed in a blur of superhuman speed and strength, trading blows that would shatter ordinary beings. Kennedy's enhanced body screamed in protest as he pushed himself beyond all limits. With humanity's fate hanging in the balance, he summoned every last ounce of strength for one final, decisive attack. Kennedy's fist slammed into the control panel, sparks flying as he overrode Deneb's doomsday protocol. The tremors subsided, Mars teetering on the brink of destruction. He slumped against the console, blood trickling from a gash above his eye. A thunderous roar shook the chamber. Kennedy spun, plasma rifle raised. Through the settling dust, a nightmarish form emerged. Deneb's once regal frame twisted and bubbled, cybernetic implants rupturing as flesh mutated. Tentacles erupted from his torso, writhing and grasping. His face split open, revealing rows of jagged teeth. "What have you done to yourself?" Kennedy breathed. The abomination that was Deneb shrieked, its voice a cacophony of alien tongues. Psionic energy crackled around its malformed limbs. Kennedy dove as a blast of pure psychic force shredded the control panel behind him. He rolled to his feet, unleashing a barrage from his rifle. Plasma bolts sizzled against Deneb's hide, leaving only superficial burns. The monster's tentacles lashed out, whip-fast. Kennedy severed one with his combat knife, but two more coiled around his legs. As Deneb's maw gaped wide, Sergeant Logan burst through the doorway. "Sir, catch!" Logan hurled a belt of high-explosive charges. Kennedy snatched them from the air, priming the detonator. With a grunt of effort, he jammed the explosives down Deneb's throat. "Fire in the hole!" Kennedy shouted. Logan tackled him, shielding Kennedy with his own body as the charges detonated. The blast sent them tumbling across the floor. When the smoke cleared, chunks of Deneb's ravaged form lay scattered across the chamber. Alarms blared. The reactor core pulsed ominously, radiation levels spiking. "We gotta move, sir!" Logan hauled Kennedy to his feet. They stumbled through collapsing corridors, the installation coming apart around them. Logan took point, blasting debris from their path. A shadow loomed ahead. Deneb, impossibly regenerated, blocked their escape. The alien's new form hulked over them, muscles rippling beneath scales. Logan shoved Kennedy aside as Deneb lunged. "Go! I'll hold him off!" "Logan, no!" But the sergeant was already in motion. He tackled Deneb, grappling with the monster's bulk. Logan's hand found the pin of his last grenade. "It's been an honor, sir." Logan grinned, teeth stained red. He yanked the pin. The explosion flung Kennedy backwards. Through the flames, he glimpsed Logan and Deneb consumed by the blast. A nearby weapons rack toppled, revealing a prototype particle cannon. Kennedy seized the weapon, its weight straining even his enhanced muscles. He swung it to bear just as Deneb burst from the inferno, flesh knitting before Kennedy's eyes. No time to think, Kennedy pulled the trigger. A lance of concentrated ions erupted from the cannon's muzzle. It struck Deneb squarely in the chest, boring through alien flesh and bone. The Ventaxian commander's final scream was lost in the roar of disintegrating matter. The blast knocked Kennedy off his feet. He tumbled backwards, the floor beneath him buckling. A vortex of energy formed where the particle beam had struck, hungrily devouring everything around it. Kennedy clawed at the ground, fighting the singularity's pull. His fingers left gouges in the metal plating as he was inexorably drawn towards oblivion. A hand seized his wrist, Major Hendricks, clinging to the door frame of their extraction craft.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, Please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.